First contact in crisis. The crystalline towers of Research Station K7 sparkled against the backdrop of the Andromeda Arm, their usual pristine gleam now marred by flickering emergency lights. Inside, Chief Researcher Naz Tool pressed her webbed hands against the control panel, trying to steady herself as another tremor shook the station. Her silver scales rippled with anxiety as she watched critical systems failing one by one. Status report. She called out, her fins flaring with authority despite the chaos around her. The Kalari pride themselves on order, on precision, on having a protocol for everything. But now, as she watched her carefully maintained research station falling apart, Naz Toll realized no protocol existed for this level of catastrophic failure. Primary systems are cascading, Chief. Second Researcher Velkan reported, his usually melodious voice tight with stress. The quantum core is destabilizing. We're looking at complete systems failure within 36 hours. His three-fingered hands danced across the holographic interface, trying to reroute power through increasingly limited channels. The Kalari had risen to prominence in the galactic community through their mastery of quantum engineering and unwavering dedication to proper procedure. Their stations were considered masterpieces of efficiency and safety. Yet here they were, watching helplessly as their systems crumbled around them. Send the distress signal, Naz Toll ordered, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of Kalari dignity. All frequencies, all protocols. The responses came quickly, each one a deeper cut than the last. The Centauri Confederation. Request noted. Current situation does not meet intervention criteria per Statute 7249B. The Rigelian Technocracy. Station design non-compatible with available assistance protocols. The Arcturus Alliance. Sector outside predetermined support parameters. Message after message, each more coldly bureaucratic than the last. Naz Toll felt her secondary heart begin to flutter, a sign of extreme stress her species rarely displayed. These were the great powers of the galaxy, the civilizations the Kalari had modeled themselves after. Their refusal to help was incomprehensible. Then, cutting through the silence of rejection, a new signal appeared. The language was different, the transmission protocols almost primitive by Kalari standards. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Horizon. We've received your distress call and are altering course to assist. ETA 20 minutes. Please confirm life support status and number of crew. Earth vessel. Naz Toll exchanged glances with Velkan. Humans were barely known in this sector. A young species that had achieved faster-than-light travel less than a century ago. Their technology was considered crude by most galactic standards. Chief, Velkan whispered, his fins rippling with concern. Human technology is incompatible with our systems. They cannot possibly. Another violent shudder ran through the station, and the decision was made for them. Confirm the message, Naz Toll ordered. Send them our status. The Horizon arrived exactly when promised, a stark contrast to the elegant curves of Kalari architecture. The human vessel was all angles and practical design, with visible repair patches and what appeared to be manually operated external components. It looked like it belonged in a historical archive, rather than attempting a high-risk rescue operation. The docking procedure was equally inelegant by Kalari standards. Instead of the usual quantum-locked synchronization, the humans used mechanical clamps and what appeared to be manually pressurized airlocks. Yet they achieved a secure seal in less than 5 minutes, faster than any protocol-approved method. Captain Chen emerged first, a small female human with short black hair and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. She was followed by what appeared to be her engineering team, carrying tools that looked almost primitive to Kalari eyes. Chief Researcher, Chen said, offering a respectful nod that nonetheless ignored about 12 different formal greeting protocols. We've done a preliminary scan of your station. You've got multiple system failures cascading through your quantum matrix. Show us your primary control center. Naz Toll found herself leading these humans through her station, watching as they examined systems with handheld devices that seemed impossibly simple. They spoke quickly among themselves, using terms that their translators struggled to convert. Your quantum core, their chief engineer, a human male named Rodriguez, said as they reached the main engineering section. It's beautiful work, but beauty isn't going to keep your people alive right now. He turned to his team. Break out the emergency kits. We're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way. Old-fashioned. Velkan's fins fluttered in alarm. These systems require quantum-calibrated tools and... With respect, Rodriguez interrupted, already pulling what looked like mechanical tools from his kit. Your quantum systems are failing. Sometimes you need to step backward to move forward. He held up what appeared to be a simple wrench. This might not be pretty, but it works. And right now, working is all that matters. Nastful watched as the humans began their work, their methods seemingly chaotic, but displaying an efficiency that defied the Kalari's understanding of proper procedure. They bypassed failing quantum circuits with mechanical switches, rerouted power through backup systems that weren't supposed to be compatible, and somehow kept critical systems running through what appeared to be sheer determination and improvisation. As she observed their work, Nastel began to understand something that would change her view of the galaxy forever. The humans weren't ignoring protocols. They simply approached problems differently. Where the Kalari saw rigid systems that had to be maintained precisely, humans saw possibilities. Where other species saw incompatibility, humans saw challenges to overcome. Why? She finally asked Captain Chen, who was helping her crew run power cables through a maintenance shaft. Why did you come when the others refused? Chen paused in her work, wiping sweat from her forehead. Because you needed help, she said simply. All that other stuff, protocols, compatibility, sector boundaries, that's just bureaucracy. When someone calls for help, you help. Everything else is details. The emergency lights flickered again, but this time, they steadied. A human cheer echoed through the station as systems began to stabilize. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't protocol, but it was working. And in that moment, Naztol realized that perhaps the galaxy had been measuring advancement by the wrong standards all along. The engineering challenge. The temporary repairs had bought them time, but Chief Researcher Naztol could feel the subtle vibrations through her sensitive fins. The station was far from stable. She watched as the human engineers worked in what appeared to be orchestrated chaos, their methods defying everything she understood about proper maintenance procedures. Chief, Engineer Rodriguez called out, his head deep inside an access panel that, according to all Kalari technical manuals, should never be opened during operation. Your quantum harmonics are completely out of alignment. The core's trying to compensate, but it's burning through containment faster than we can patch it. Captain Chen, who had refused to return to her ship despite Kalari safety protocols, clearly stating that rescue vessel commanders should maintain distance, studied the holographic display of the station's systems. The humans had somehow jury-rigged their primitive scanning equipment to interface with Kalari technology. Another impossible feat they'd accomplished through what they called creative problem-solving. How long? Chen asked, her expression grave. 6 hours, maybe 8 if we're lucky, Rodriguez replied, emerging from the panel with his face streaked with coolant residue. The quantum containment field is degrading faster than we thought. When it goes, it'll take the whole station with it. Velkan's fins rippled with distress. Impossible. The containment systems are designed to maintain stability for at least 40 cycles after primary failure. There are redundancies, safeguards, which would work perfectly if this was a normal system failure. Rodriguez interrupted, his voice gentle despite the urgency. But look at these patterns. He pointed to what appeared to be random fluctuations in the energy readings. Your quantum core isn't just failing. It's been compromised. These variations aren't natural. Nastful felt her scales pale. Sabotage. The word felt foreign in her mouth. The concept itself went against everything the Kalari believed about civilized behavior. Sure looks that way, Chen confirmed, her eyes narrowing. The question is, why? And why now? She turned to her engineering team. We need options, people. Real ones, not theoretical. What followed was unlike anything Naztol had ever witnessed in her centuries of scientific work. The humans gathered in what they called a brainstorming session, throwing ideas back and forth with no regard for hierarchy or proper procedure. Junior engineers interrupted their superiors. Wild suggestions were considered alongside conventional ones. And somehow, out of this chaos, a plan began to emerge. "It's crazy," Rodriguez said, spreading out a hand-drawn diagram on a makeshift table. "But it might work. We can't fix your quantum core. Not properly, not with the time and resources we have. But we might be able to contain it long enough to evacuate the station." "How?" Velkan demanded, his scientific curiosity temporarily overriding his horror at their unorthodox methods. Rodriguez grinned, an expression that Naztol was learning meant either brilliant innovation or imminent disaster. Sometimes both. "We're going to build a containment field using modified shield generators from the horizon. They're not quantum-based, just good old-fashioned electromagnetic fields with some gravity wave modifications we cooked up during the Centauri War." "That's..." Naztol searched for the diplomatic way to say impossible in human terms. "Your technology is far too primitive to contain a quantum core breach." "Primitive doesn't mean ineffective," Chen countered. "Sometimes the old ways work best." "Rodriguez, what do you need?" The next 2 hours were a blur of activity that challenged everything Naztol thought she knew about engineering. The humans stripped parts from their own ship without hesitation, modified Kaluri equipment in ways that should have been impossible, and somehow kept working even as the station's artificial gravity began to fluctuate. "The quantum field is affecting your artificial gravity," one of the human engineers observed, casually magnetizing her boots to compensate. "Actually, that gives me an idea. If we can't contain the quantum energy directly, maybe we can use the gravity fluctuations to our advantage." Naztol watched in amazement as the humans began deliberately destabilizing certain gravity sectors, creating what they called a gravity lens to help focus and contain the quantum energy. It was elegant in its own way, not in its design or execution, but in how it used the very forces threatening to destroy them as part of the solution. "It's not pretty," Rodriguez admitted as they activated the hybrid containment system. "And it won't last forever, but it should hold long enough." The station shuddered as the new containment field engaged. Warning systems blared, then gradually settled into a steady hum. The quantum readings, while still critical, began to stabilize. "How?" Velkan asked, his scientific dignity finally crumbling in the face of genuine curiosity. "How did you know this would work?" Rodriguez shrugged, a human gesture Naztol was beginning to associate with their peculiar mix of modesty and pride. "We didn't, but humans have a long history of making things work with whatever we have on hand. Sometimes not knowing something is impossible is the first step to making it possible." But even as they celebrated this temporary victory, Captain Chen's expression remained troubled. She pulled Naztol aside, her voice low. "The sabotage pattern. I've seen something like it before. This isn't over, Chief Researcher. Someone wanted your station to fail, and they wanted to make sure no one could help you in time. The question is, why target a research station in the first place?" Naztol felt her fins flutter as she realized the implications. The humans hadn't just prevented a disaster. They'd uncovered a mystery. And somehow she knew their unorthodox methods would be needed again before this crisis was truly resolved. "Warning signs. There's a pattern here," Lieutenant Maya Santos said, her dark eyes scanning through streams of data on her tablet. The human security officer had been analyzing the station's logs ever since they'd stabilized the quantum core, looking for clues about the sabotage. The system failures weren't random. They were precisely calculated to look like cascade failures. The station's makeshift command center had become a fusion of human and Kaluri technology. Holographic displays flickered beside paper diagrams, and quantum sensors hummed next to what Captain Chen had called good old-fashioned motion detectors. The contrast would have bothered Naztul a day ago. Now she found it oddly reassuring. "Show me," Chen ordered, her uniform jacket discarded hours ago in the station's rising heat. Another system they were struggling to regulate. Santos projected her findings onto the main screen, highlighting various system failures in different colors. "Look at the timing," Santos explained. Each failure was triggered exactly 2.7 seconds after the previous one. Natural cascades are never that precise. And here, she pointed to a particular sequence. These power fluctuations, they're creating a pattern. Velkan moved closer, his scientific curiosity overriding his usual reserve. "That's impossible. Our systems are designed to prevent external manipulation. The quantum encryption alone was bypassed," Santos interrupted gently. "Not broken. Bypassed. Like someone knew exactly where the gaps would be. The saboteur didn't just know your systems. They knew them intimately." A heavy silence fell over the command center. The implications were clear. This wasn't just an attack. It was an inside job. Or at least, it had inside help. "Chief," Rodriguez's voice crackled over the comm, breaking the tension. "You need to see this. Maintenance Shaft 7, near the auxiliary power couplings." They found Rodriguez kneeling beside an open panel, his face illuminated by the glow of his work light. Inside the panel was a small device, no larger than a human palm, its surface covered in shifting patterns that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Don't touch it," Chen ordered, though Rodriguez had already backed away. "Santos." The security officer ran her scanner over the device, frowning at the readings. "It's like nothing I've ever seen. The technology it's not just advanced, it's adaptive. It's learning from our attempts to scan it." "Impossible," Velkan whispered, but there was less conviction in his voice now. The past day had redefined his understanding of impossible. "Wait," Santos said suddenly, her scanner beeping. "It's not just monitoring the station, it's transmitting." Chen's reaction was immediate. "Rodriguez, can we block the signal?" "Not without risking interference with our containment field," he replied. "Whatever this thing is, it's tapped into the station's quantum matrix. It's part of the system now." "So we're being watched," Naztul said, her fins rippling with unease. "But by whom? And why?" "Think about it," Chen said, pacing the narrow maintenance shaft. "Your station sends out a distress call. The most advanced species in the sector refuse to help, almost like they knew something we didn't. Then we show up, humans, with our primitive technology, and suddenly we're dealing with quantum sabotage and adaptive monitoring devices. We're being tested," Santos realized. "All of us. The advanced species, the Kalari, and humanity. This is some kind of experiment." Rodriguez let out a low whistle. "That's one hell of a science project." "But why?" Velkan asked. "What could anyone hope to learn from this?" Chen's expression hardened. How different species respond to crisis, who helps, who doesn't, and maybe most importantly, how we solve problems. She turned to Naztul. "Your station. What exactly do you research here?" "Quantum communications," Naztul replied. "We're developing ways to transmit data instantly across any distance without relying on conventional subspace networks. A technology that could change the balance of power in the galaxy," Chen mused. "And now someone knows exactly how different species would react in a crisis, what technologies they'd use, what protocols they'd follow, or ignore." A new alarm blared, its pitch making Naztul's fins vibrate painfully. Rodriguez checked his readings and swore, a human habit several Kalari had found themselves adopting lately. "The containment field is adapting," he reported. "No, not adapting. It's being adapted. Whatever this device is, it's learning from our solution and finding ways around it." "How long?" Chen demanded. 3 hours, maybe 4 before total failure. And this time, Rodriguez met his captain's eyes. This time, I don't think we can patch it. Chen nodded, as if she'd been expecting this. Then we changed the game. If someone's testing us, let's show them why testing humanity usually leads to unexpected results. She turned to her crew. Santos, I want everything you can tell me about that device's transmissions. Rodriguez, start stripping the horizon. All of it. Every piece of tech we've got, no matter how primitive it seems. Captain, Naztul asked, recognizing the gleam in the human's eyes, the same look they'd had just before their impossible solution to the quantum core breach. If we're part of an experiment, Chen said, a grim smile playing at her lips, then it's time to contaminate the sample. Rodriguez, remember that crazy idea you had about using old Earth radio waves to create quantum interference? Rodriguez's eyes widened. The one you said would never work. The completely insane one. That's the one. Let's try it. After all, she added, looking at the mysterious device, the best way to deal with someone studying your responses is to do something completely unpredictable. As the humans burst into action once again, Naztul realized that perhaps this had been the saboteurs' crucial mistake. They had chosen to test humanity precisely because humans seemed predictable, primitive, easy to analyze. They were about to learn just how wrong that assumption had been. The battle of frequencies. The makeshift laboratory that had once been storage bay 3 hummed with an unlikely combination of technologies. Ancient radio transmitters salvaged from the horizon sat next to quantum processors, while hastily modified communication arrays pointed at carefully calculated angles throughout the station. To Naztul's trained eye, it looked less like a scientific endeavor and more like an improvised art installation. It's elegant, in a chaotic sort of way, Rodriguez explained as he made final adjustments to what he called the quantum radio, a hybrid device that shouldn't have worked according to any known laws of physics. We're not trying to block their transmissions. We're going to do something much worse. We're going to talk back. Captain Chen stood at the central console, where Santos had managed to decode part of the mysterious device's transmission patterns. Multiple frequencies, all quantum encrypted, the security officer reported. But there's something odd about the encryption. It's layered, like they expected someone to break through the first few levels. Of course they did, Chen said, a grim smile playing at her lips. This whole thing is a test, remember. They want to see how different species approach the problem. She turned to Rodriguez. How close are we? Ready on your mark, Captain. But I should mention, this probably violates about 15 different laws of physics. Good thing humans have a history of proving physics wrong. Chen nodded to her crew. Do it. The effect was immediate and spectacular. As Rodriguez activated their jury-rigged system, waves of interference patterns rippled through the station's quantum field. The mysterious monitoring device began to pulse with new patterns, its surface swirling with confused energy. It's working, Santos called out, checking her readings. The device is trying to adapt, but it can't predict our signal pattern because we're not using any recognizable protocol. We're literally broadcasting noise across quantum frequencies. Not noise, Rodriguez corrected, his fingers dancing across his control panel. Old Earth radio signals. Everything from classical music to vintage advertisements to deep space background radiation. We're flooding their quantum channels with humanity's greatest hits. Velkan, who had been watching the proceedings with a mixture of horror and fascination, suddenly straightened. The quantum field, it's stabilizing. Whatever you're doing, it's forcing the sabotage program to focus on defending against your transmission instead of attacking our systems. That's not all it's doing, Santos said sharply. Look. The main display showed new signals emerging from previously empty space around the station. Multiple ships were decloaking, their designs unlike anything in known space. They were dark, angular vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Well, Chen said calmly, looks like we finally got their attention. A transmission cut through their communications, the voice speaking in perfectly translated but emotionless tones. This test has been compromised. Human interference has invalidated the experimental parameters, initiating containment protocols. I don't think so, Chen responded, her voice hard. Rodriguez, Plan B. You mean the really crazy plan? The one that might blow up the station? That's the one. Rodriguez grinned and pulled what looked like an ancient Earth device from his toolkit. Ladies, gentlemen, and respected Kalari, allow me to introduce you to the oldest form of human communication technology, the AM radio, modified to broadcast through quantum space. He activated the device, and suddenly the quantum field around the station erupted with what Naz Tull would later learn was something called rock and roll music, played at frequencies that made the mysterious ship's quantum systems shriek in protest. You see, Chen broadcast to their observers, humans have a unique perspective on technology. We never threw away our old tools just because we found better ones. Everything has a use, even if it's not the one it was designed for. And right now, we're using century-old technology to disrupt your quantum systems. The enemy ships began to move, their formations breaking as their systems struggled against the barbaric assault of primitive Earth broadcasts. Their own transmissions became garbled, confused. You want to study how different species handle crisis, Chen continued. Study this. Humans don't just solve problems. We rewrite the rules. We take what works and make it work better. We learn, we adapt, and most importantly, we help those in need, not because it's logical or profitable, but because it's right. The mysterious ships began to retreat, their quantum systems thoroughly disrupted by the combination of Earth radio waves and modified Kalari technology. As they fled, their final transmission came through. Test concluded. Results: unexpected. Human capability: underestimated. Recommendation: revaluation required. As the ships vanished back into quantum space, Rodriguez let out a whoop of triumph. Did we just win a space battle using FM radio? AM actually, Chen corrected with a smile. Sometimes the oldest solutions are the best ones. She turned to Naz Tull. Your station is safe now. The quantum core is stabilizing, and the sabotage programs are breaking down without their control signals. Naz Tull struggled to find words that could encompass what she had witnessed. You defeated an advanced hostile force using technology that predates spaceflight. You protected our station by breaking every rule of proper procedure. She paused, her fins rippling with emotion. You showed us that perhaps our understanding of advancement was too narrow. That's humanity for you, Chen said with a shrug. We're not the most advanced, the most logical, or the most disciplined species out there. But we are stubborn, creative, and we never, ever give up on those who need our help. As the human crew began the process of restoring the station's systems to normal operation, Naz Tull realized that this incident would change more than just protocols and procedures. It would change how the Kalari, and perhaps the entire galaxy, viewed both humanity and the nature of progress itself. A new understanding. 1 month after the incident at Research Station K7, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. For the first time in recorded history, a Kalari representative had requested to address the full assembly without following the standard century-long diplomatic process. Even more surprisingly, they had insisted on having a human delegation present. Chief Researcher Naz Tull stood before the assembled representatives of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, her silver scales gleaming under the council chamber's lights. Captain Chen and her crew sat in the human section, looking decidedly out of place among the elaborate regalia and bioengineered fashion of the other species. Esteemed Council, Naz Tull began, her translator set to formal diplomatic mode. I come before you to speak of advancement, of wisdom, and of how we may have confused the two. She activated a holographic display, showing the hybrid technologies that had saved her station. 1 month ago, my research station faced destruction. Our calls for help were ignored by those we considered our superiors, our equals. Every advanced civilization in range deemed us unworthy of assistance. The council chamber filled with murmurs as various representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Centauri representative raised a glowing appendage. The protocols were clear. The situation did not meet. The protocols. Naztul interrupted, causing several council members to gasp at the breach of etiquette, are precisely what I wish to discuss. We have become so focused on advancement, on protocol, on doing things the proper way, that we have forgotten something fundamental. She gestured to the human delegation. These humans, whom many of us dismissed as primitive, saved not only my station, but the lives of everyone aboard. They did this not with advanced technology, but with creativity, courage, and an unconditional willingness to help others. The holographic display shifted to show recordings from the station. Humans working alongside Kalari, jury-rigging solutions, defeating advanced hostile forces with modified radio waves. They showed us that true advancement isn't about having the most sophisticated technology or the most elegant solutions. It's about understanding that every tool, every idea, has value when used creatively. Captain Chen stood up, earning more gasps from the council. Speaking out of turn was simply not done. "If I may add something," she asked, ignoring the scandalized looks. "Humanity has learned something in our relatively short time among the stars. Progress isn't a straight line. Sometimes you have to step backward to move forward. Sometimes the old ways work best. But most importantly, no advancement is worth sacrificing our basic duty to help others." The Rigelian representative's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. "This is unprecedented. The humans lack the technological sophistication to what?" Rodriguez interrupted from his seat, earning a subtle smile from Chen. "To save lives. To solve problems. With all due respect, sophistication didn't help much when our station was under attack. But you know what did? Am radio and human stubbornness." Naztul raised her fins, calling for attention. The hostile force that attacked us was studying how different species respond to crisis. They wanted to understand our technologies, our protocols, our methods. But what they, and we, failed to understand was that true advancement cannot be measured by technology alone. She activated one final holographic display, showing the hybrid quantum radio array that had saved the station. The Kalari Science Academy has begun incorporating human methods into our research, not replacing our technology, but complementing it, learning to see old tools in new ways, and most importantly, learning that helping others should never require checking protocols first. The chamber erupted in discussion, countless species arguing about tradition, protocol, and the proper way of doing things. Through it all, Chen and her crew sat quietly, watching with those peculiar human half-smiles that Naztul had learned meant they saw something others had missed. Finally, the council elder called for order. "What exactly are you proposing, Chief Researcher?" "A new initiative," Naztul answered. "A joint program between the Kalari and humanity, open to all species who wish to participate. We will combine our various technologies, methods, and philosophies, not to advance for advancement's sake, but to better serve and protect all sentient life." She turned to face the human delegation. Captain Chen and her crew showed us that being advanced doesn't mean abandoning what works. It means being wise enough to use everything at our disposal, humble enough to learn from others, and brave enough to help those in need, regardless of protocols. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. It was Chen who broke the silence, standing to address the assembly. "On Earth, we have a saying. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Technology advances, civilizations grow, but the basic truths remain. Help those in need. Solve problems creatively. Never stop learning. And most importantly, never forget that the simplest solutions are often the best ones." As the council dissolved into intense debate about this radical proposal, Naztul moved to stand beside Chen. "They'll argue about this for months," she said, her fins rippling with amusement. "That's good," Chen replied with a smile. "It means they're thinking. And thinking leads to change. Like using ancient radio waves to defeat quantum weapons. Exactly like that. Chen's smile widened. After all, who knows what other primitive solutions might turn out to be exactly what the galaxy needs. The legacy of Station K7 would be debated for years to come, but one thing was certain. The galaxy's understanding of advancement had been forever changed by a small human crew who dared to solve a quantum crisis with AM radio and determination. Sometimes, it seemed, the most advanced solution was remembering the basics. Help others, think creatively, and never assume that newer always means better.